Kia ora, ladies and gentlemen. This is Leo from the Ultimate Growth Experience podcast. I am joined by my great friend from California, the United States, Luis Garcia. How you going, bro?
Howdy. Fantastic here. And yourself, my good sir?
That's awesome. So just to let my listeners and viewers know, so I met Luis through a Facebook group called Mock Mode, and that's where all kinds of guys who are into self-improvement come together, and we talk about how to be better at ourselves, how to become the best versions of ourselves, how to really strive for growth and to prosper. So let's just start with the first question, Luis. So how did you get into self-improvement?
Started around the age 19, 20-ish. I always had like the gut feeling in which, I was able, everybody has the capacity to expand.
Yeah.
And me as a kid, I was always curious. And I think it starts with that just curiosity to like explore the limits of everything. And so for my case, I wrote down what I had to write here. So to make it easier, I don't know why I started off with this. I just put, everybody has room for self-improvement, no excuses. Whether you have bad habits you can get rid of, just start there. And that's often like the best remedy to like fulfill your life. Just do an inventory of like bad things you're doing. And at that time I was starting to question things of like what things are not really necessary or functional with my case. And really, as it says, you can start off really by doing an inventory of what you suck at. But the problem is not many people want to admit their faults. It makes them insecure. And so for my case, it was a perpetual cycle. I was admitting my faults, but that also, I like the transparency. There's good in terms of like being outspoken and speaking the truth with yourself instead of using like, addictions as a band-aid. Basically, like buffers. Mm-hmm. And what else could I refine with that question? I was just looking for different vehicles, really. Like what makes me feel leveled out, and I just continued and just keeping an arsenal of what makes me feel pretty good.
So you're saying that essentially you were constantly trying to escape. So this idea of escapism. So trying to just not face your problems head on, but rather just delay it again and procrastinate it. And
pretty much resort immediately, unconsciously to like video games, junk foods, and all that stuff. And people need to be aware of what how they unconsciously react towards stressors. And it's often doing inventory. Is it? Are you wasting money? Are you eating excess calories? Are you watching pornography? Are you like hanging out with your boys at 3 a.m. partying until 6 a.m. at the club or something like that? And it's dangerous. The more and more you go into that, it becomes very habitual and much harder to like disengage yourself from that toxic lifestyle or habits. So just do an inventory of everything you do, reaction-wise. So it does take some form of self-awareness, but it does really pay off.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we live in an era of instant gratification, and I'm sure that less and less people are trying to face delayed gratification, trying to get like a short fix of something. So like, instead of really working out, really meditating, really doing things that take a long time to master, they rather get the short, quick option. So, pornography is an example. So instead of going and meeting women and talking to people and friends, etc., like, really socializing and really improving your, social intelligence. I mean, most people just want to get that, quick hit. And that's an unfortunate tragedy, I think. I mean, what do you think?
That's you just hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's like everybody can fix their impulses by even just turning off their phone for a day. The brain wants to seek alternative amusements. If you shut off your phone, suddenly you're like reading a book, or at the gym, go for a walk. Hijack your brain very quickly by just turning off your phone for a day. Assuming if you don't work that day, just do it. Don't check up on your social media. Just your brain wants to seek like some type of disturbance or distraction rather. And when you don't have your phone on, just for that experiment for just one day, you'll be surprised of like what you will do. Just mow the lawn. I don't know. Hang out with your friends. So I think that'll be a quick experiment. Just, you know, if you want to do an inventory for your toxic reactions, just turn off the phone, because sometimes that's often the most abused tool because it's so accessible. You know, it's a portal to the internet, social media, and overall, it's just a severe time waster.
Precisely. I mean, well, speaking of pornography, I mean, my goodness. I mean, up to the second question. I mean, so I'm into NoFap. You're into
Yeah,
NoFap as well. So,
right.
to the viewers, tell them what it's about and why it's good for you or why it's beneficial.
First question, what's it about? It's just basically like dissecting whether you have a problem with it or not. I mean, there are different demographics or men that use it at different frequencies, but overall, for NoFap is for the guys who have trouble abstaining from it compulsively, and there are some negative effects from it. You know, you're depleting your energy. There's some guys who binge on it for 2 hours a day, some just half hour, some for 5, 6 hours a day, depending on their lifestyle, if they work little hours or not, you know, of being able to afford to waste that many hours a day. The second question was, you know, what was NoFap about? And then
Like, why do you do it? I mean, why do we do it? Why do people in monk mode do it?
it's often the most talked about remedy for self-improvement because it has such exponential like list of benefits, enhancing energy, your confidence. It even affects your like testosterone levels, your voice, makes you more vocal. You just think more clearly, and then it compounds. Because you have more energy, more clarity, then it just branches off into like more pathways of improvement. You're like, whoa, you know, my bed is messy all the time. I should do something about it. And often beforehand, you had no energy. You just leave it all just, you know, with dirty looking pillows everywhere, not organized. So NoFap is basically, I think, is a catalyst to answer almost all of your problems,
Yeah.
but the rest remaining, you have to figure it out yourself. So it's not the complete solution for all of your problems. I'll say that it brings a lot to the table, but you have to figure out the rest.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing it for a while, and I've noticed that I have more clarity. I'm able to focus a lot more in terms of whenever I study, whenever I work out, more energy. My voice is maybe a little bit lower. I'm not sure about that, but you're spot on there, Luis. And I think because
Mm-hmm.
have you seen that video by Gary Wilson on TED Talk?
I have. There's different videos by him. One's like 15 minutes, and the other's like an hour and 20, where
Yeah.
he goes really deep into like some PowerPoint. So, in other words, I would like to safely say yes. His TED Talk. Uh-huh.
Yeah, because in his TED Talk, he talks exclusively about one of his patients where he was seen as having ADHD, bipolar, depression.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
as soon as he stopped watching pornography and just abstaining and getting away from any of that instant junk, he started playing the violin. He started getting his GPA up. He started,
Wow.
like just amazing results. And you see, that's probably one of my first videos that really got me going in terms of this NoFap project. And like I must say, because you've seen the benefits and I've seen the benefits, and to me, I'm just wondering why a lot of, well, to be fair though, it's really strong technology. I mean, Jordan Peterson himself said it's like parasitic in a sense, and yeah, like that's sort of the observation that I've made.
It is. It's a digital leech. It's a digital leech that can really do much more damage than what people can assume. It's horrible.
Mhm.
Um, so to kind of extend on that question, lastly, I wrote basically I was aware that I was dependent on porn and, as a buffer, a crutch, and I wanted to experience introducing myself to NoFap. I wanted to experience the claim benefits that was written on like Reddit, chapter 10, I believe, in the Think and Grow Rich book, Sexual Transmutation, aka as it was called. And this was like 2 summers ago. And you know, what else did I put? since it promised like increased energy, more risk taking, I felt like I could benefit a lot from that because throughout my childhood, I was always like kind of very cautious and timid, and not taking the opportunity upon something. And till this day, seriously, I'm still practicing on that. Just like, don't bother with hesitation. What's the worst that can happen? Don't procrastinate as well. I think they're kind of like cousins: procrastination and hesitation. You like,
Yes.
that it's emotion as well. It's a very dangerous emotion to upkeep, and you have to dismiss, the opinions of others, or how the end result will be. And you learn a lot through failure. Likewise with like relapses. With every relapse, you get to recognize triggers of like, okay, leave the phone out of the room, and everything else in between. So with every relapse, a lot of guys beat up themselves after the relapse, but you have to use it as a tool to decipher what worked or didn't work. Did you go to the gym today or not? Maybe that's why you relapse, because you have all this pent up energy. You don't know what to do, quote unquote. And it's like, dude, go to the gym. That's often the best remedy.
Yeah, I mean, because I failed multiple times myself, but since I've been incorporating meditation in the morning and at night, I've noticed that I think about it much less. I'm more focused on, really, really trying to grow. Because just to my viewers, I've been reading a book by Dr. Henry Kissinger. His book New Order, if anybody's interested. So it's like a foreign policy book, and since doing this thing, moving away from the instant gratification thing, it really pushes us to really focus and like just aspire to grow. Essentially, like that's sort of the tendency that I've got.
It's very funny how it broadens your curiosity towards subjects that you would never participate before. Just like the story you told about Gary Wilson, of the guy playing the violin. That's like, what? Like, it's a very complex instrument. Actually, it's kind of a complex type of music to master. But that's fantastic that abstaining from that pool of gratification or toxic gratification, just abstaining from it for a week or month, you'd be surprised what hobbies you suddenly grasp on.
Yeah, I mean, it could change your life.
It's worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can make you a better dad in the future. It can make you a better businessman, better decision maker, better with the ladies, whatever your goal is. NoFap will help. NoFap does have a contributing piece in it.
Yeah, for those interested who are watching this later on, I'll leave the subreddit and the link in the description, and try it out, because who knows, maybe it might change your life.
It has a lot of members.
Oh yeah,
What is it, like 200,000-300,000, something like that?
Yeah,
No idea.
It's quite getting popular and mainstream, but for
Yeah,
me, I think it's a
it
necessity
should.
because for sure, for sure. Right, third question. So, what are your habits and micro routines like?
I was thinking about that while I was writing. I'm always searching for like the next habit that could like broaden up my time and optimize my health. So I just basically summarize it as saying, a habit is a habit, no matter how microscopic you described it or how like macro it is. It doesn't matter like the size of the habit, the frequency, or the complexity of it. If it helps you out, let it be so. Implement it into your morning routine, whatever it is. And my habits, they gravitate mostly towards optimal health, as I said, lessening stress, and increasing awareness or perception. By that, I mean having the habit to be transparent and just enhancing my communication skills on getting to the core problems of people's issues. I get a kick out of like listening to stories, people living in the Middle East having trouble with their country,
Oh yeah, definitely.
getting a
Jeez.
job. It's, there's some horrific stories,
Yeah.
and I just love connecting with people from the UK, Australia, India, Canada, and
And
I've
New
been making a
Zealand.
lot of friends from that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and other than that, the habits that gives me the most gratification is having a clean and organized environment. For
I
some
like,
reason, I've always had a knack of like keeping things clean and organized.
again,
Because
that's Peterson's rule. Clean your room.
yeah, because internally I feel like I'm set. Like
Mm.
after I have everything in place, I can kind of do anything. But then whatever I do afterwards, I clean up so that way it doesn't compound. I was one of those guys really in the past where my floor space was just scattered with junk, clothes, laundry, trash, you name it. It was horrible. And at that time, I was like, yep, this is me. I'm not going to change, And then my mom, kept on bugging me about it. I'm like, why do you care? This and that. There's nobody living inside the room, just me. And it's like, now I understand. Maybe she could have worded it better to the point where, you know, maybe not the level of what JP says, but thank goodness I stumbled upon him really because it really works.
Oh yeah, like
Just
cause
get rid of excess and just organize and clean up, and mentally, spiritually, emotionally, too, you feel a lot better.
so essentially what you're saying is set your house in order before you criticize the world.
Correct. Correct. She always did she loves having a clean house. Make it smell good and all that stuff. But because that was her duty as a mother, and that's basically it.
So you're now living on your own at the moment?
No, with my dad actually and my sister, so we all live together.
Wow.
Mom has left the story, has left the house.
All right.
Still alive, but she.
Oh, good.
I'm not sure how detailed I could go in that story.
No, not really. No.
Okay, no worries.
I mean, we could talk about
Maybe off
that
camera.
in person. I mean, you and
Sure.
me later on. But
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
awesome. Prior, when we had our one-to-one convo before this podcast, we talked about minimalism and stoicism. So that's essentially Marcus Aurelius's ideas in his book Meditation. So like, how did you get into stoicism?
Stoicism. I got into minimalism first, and then
Yeah.
I was watching some like videos related, like recommended in YouTube because I was watching a lot of minimalistic videos. I came upon like Marcus Aurelius. Um, what's the other guy's name? Seneca, and other figures that I haven't memorized name wise. And I thought it was a very interesting concept. And then I downloaded some books, some audiobooks, and most of them I didn't even finish because it was a bit hard to listen to. It has kind of a complex language. So I stuck mostly to YouTube videos because most of the YouTubers, they do a very good job at simplifying things.
Yes.
So with Stoicism, how I stumbled upon it, recommended videos basically on YouTube, and then it just somehow resonated a lot to me. At that time, it helped me a lot because I was having some type of like very few episodes would I have like anger outbursts. To be honest, I would get kind of physical and kind of scary and threatening to the
Really?
point where where I punched a hole in the cupboard, I smashed the glass cover of some painting or something like that. It was scary. It was like very reactive, like Hulk mode. Like it was something involuntary that just I would be very petty about stupid things really. And then I was like, this is not healthy for some reason. I felt it inside. And then I think unconsciously I was digesting like the rulings behind how Stoics handle anger and extreme emotions. And I was kind of like practicing with myself. If somebody gives me a middle finger in traffic, I'm just like, how you doing? What's up? So I like neutralize the situation basically. I don't like, oh, F you this and this and whatever. And I'm like, I don't want to make things worse. So it's like I started to just not be so reactive towards like negative situations. And so it gave me a lot of peace after that. Still to this day, if somebody runs, if somebody like collides with me, it happened. Oh well, I got insurance. Step out, make sure I'm okay. instead of going berserk, you know, like how maybe some personalities would do. But it's weird from what I see. Whatever accidents that happen, they're pretty casual about it. So I'm like, maybe I'm not the only one. You know,
Mm.
just get out of the car and make sure the other party's like okay. You know, you got insurance, okay, it's gonna get taken care of.
Yeah, I mean, your story quite similar to my mentor. Well, I had him on my first podcast actually, and every time I was around him in Melbourne, Australia, every time he drove around, he never got angry, no matter what other drivers did. Like he was just like smiling. He was like, ah, there's a lad
Yeah,
out there, and he's just driving on, and I'm just looking at him thinking, gee, he's just so positive, whereas everyone else would be pulling the finger or doing something like that. So like, you're quite similar.
yeah. So I think to kind of word it, speaking of like cars and insurance, stoicism itself, I think it's an emotional insurance. It just makes you, you know, it's like a backup to like neutralize the problem,
Or the
to
wall.
not make it go worse.
Yeah, yeah,
So, uh, so minimalism and stoicism, as you first asked in the questions, I basically wrote
yeah,
like how I encountered it. You asked by,
yeah.
or how I discovered it by experiencing chaos.
Chaos, like low point in your life.
Yeah, I was looking for like maybe I didn't look for it, but I stumbled upon these remedies, minimalism and stoicism. Um, I voluntarily, you know, deprived myself of like, you know, just resigning my job, whatever, and I wanted to see what my core foundation was built out of, like what really matters in my emotional foundation. And these elements are, you know, whatever builds the foundation. These elements are whatever energizes you. So
Yeah.
meaning I discovered it by just, you know, discovering or questioning what really matters to me. And it was kind of new at that time. I didn't really question myself of like what matters to me. It's not so much of like what do I want in life, you know, Lamborghini, this and that, Prada, backpack, whatever. You know, what means to me, what resonates to me, like
So the purpose again.
energy level, the purpose, you can call it that. Um, you know, I'm obsessed with like good output based on like very little input. That's like kind of like the efficiency mechanics that I like. You know, what's the most I could get out of with a specific like minimal output or input, I meant. So minimalism and stoicism puts an end to superficial misery like materialism, smoking, alcohol,
Yeah.
binging on dumb things, activity and substance wise, like hanging out too much with the friends, staying up late, whatever. So I guess minimalism and stoicism made me a bit more responsible, made me scope in on what really matters. You know, getting a good night's sleep is you know sounds boring to most people, but it actually matters. You know,
Yeah.
it really recalibrates your stress and just energizes you for the next day to attack your work shift or whatever projects you got going on.
Mm. I
What
mean,
else? And I think that's basically it.
you covered it.
From yeah, so from what I
Covered it
read
quite
to
well.
you, it can cure a lot of misery that you may not be conscious of.
Mm.
So I think everybody should practice on studying a bit about minimalism, stoicism. Study it first and then put it to practice like the most you can.
Mm.
And you'll be surprised of like, man, I really don't need 6 jackets. Or like I really don't need these friends, you know, that are causing a lot of disturbance in my life. You know, they're constantly asking me out for, you know, go to the club with them, you know, which I don't really want to. I just do it because they're my friends, this and that. So I don't know. It just makes you question a lot of things.
Mm. Well, I mean, we live in this era of consumerism, excessive consumerism. You buy one thing, then you want another, then you buy another thing, then you want another. Then you have a bunch of new assets that you don't need in the long run. And you're like, oh man, I spent like $2,000 on something like that. Like, particularly,
Hmm.
in America, there's like this Black Friday sort of culture.
Hmm. Yeah,
Instead of
yeah,
that,
we have that here.
yeah,
It's pretty bad.
well, it's quite bad here too. I mean, particularly during Christmas period when people just start buying all kinds of unnecessary things.
Yeah,
But
just because it's on sale, it's like, do you really need it?
no,
Just ask yourself that. Do you really need it? Are you desperate to have this in your household?
mm.
Not really. Okay, no. Just might as well say no. Maybe not.
mm. Damn, man. That sums it up. So minimalism and stoicism is a good philosophy to follow people. So next question. So do you have a goal in mind? So do you have like an ultimate aspect or any sort of long-term
Um,
solutions that you're looking for at the
I
moment?
took I took a few minutes to write this down. It's not so much about like, getting a Spanish style house in some island. It's really not of that. It's really something that I might be already experiencing. I just have to do it much more often and much more in a grand mass scale. And basically, to help people recognize their worth and their potential. There are people who don't feel valued, either from lack of love in their childhood. It's really childhood things that can really affect you in the long run. And then people stay too quiet. People stay reserved with their insecurities and not speak up. You can't solve your problems if you don't speak up about them.
Yeah.
Like, I can tell a lot about a person's background based on how they even talk. I don't even have to see your face, whatever. I don't have to meet you in person. Just by paying attention to your voice, the vocabulary you use, the narrative, it tells me a lot. The anxiety in your voice, whatever. I can tell a lot about a person. So I get a kick out of, in other words, of helping people recognize their personal values.
So your
Um,
goal at the end of the
oh,
day is to help other people, but also to basically maximize your own potential in some regard, and then
correct.
simultaneously get everybody else up. So the idea that you improve yourself, you improve others, and that means we have a
Uh-huh.
network of probably about 1,000 people, I know 1,000 people. So once we
Mm-hmm.
get better, and therefore everybody starts to rise themselves up as well. So I think it was Sam Harris who talked about this, but yeah, that idea that when one individual grows and everybody else has the incentive to grow as well. Yeah.
Correct. And I help people of like different contrasts. And I can word it by saying, I help people who either underestimate themselves or overestimate themselves. You get it? Like,
Yeah.
they keep on doing things, trying things, but they have to recognize their capacity. Start here. For those that are too cocky, too wild, whatever, it's like, okay, chill, dude. If you really want to do this, you have to, change your thinking. Don't be so rapid. Don't half-ass things. And for the people who underestimate themselves, you have to teach them that it's okay to try and fail. Try and fail.
Fail
And
forward.
yes, pretty much.
Yeah.
Do it so often that, you just pretty much get a thrill out of like trying a lot of things. And what else did I write? So I just help people recognize their worth and potential. Um, Not expanding or learning about oneself is very disturbing to see.
Huh.
I want people to question all aspects about their lives, their relationships, their diet, their spectrum of like curiosity about life,
Yeah.
curiosity about themselves, question things, please. Always question. Um, on a more selfish level for myself, what I like to have in life, uh, money, because it grants me choices. It gives me, the accessibility to get a good healthcare plan.
Yeah.
Travel, all that stuff. Service myself with like a good food, sushi restaurant or something like that. Get some good ice cream. So money is a
Not too
tool.
much. Not too much
Yeah,
of it.
yes.
Just
So
just
money and a
moderation.
good book. Yes,
Yes. Yeah.
money and a good
Precisely.
book. That
Yeah.
just opens up my mind like crazy. And I think I put something else. I want to place myself in as many people's shoes as possible. And I ended it by saying perception for me, perception is much more valuable than self gathered wisdom.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I get a kick out of learning from other people's experiences. Go to the farm that they live at, go to the states, go to the country, get familiar with the foods, the cultures, the religion, whatever. You know, have them share stories with you about their childhood, their work life. Why do they do certain things in a specific way? So that's how I expand myself mentally and emotionally as well. It's a thrill for me to like discover new flavors of personality.
Mm.
I get a kick out of that.
That's a brilliant way to sum it up. Thank you so much, Luis. I think that's all. So Luis, where could my followers find you on social media?
Uh, I'm very active on Snapchat. I keep it very informative, and I try not to be so repetitive with like certain things. I keep it humorous as well, health tips as well. So the Snapchat, it's all lowercase. It's LUIS period angel, and the letters GGUSD as in dog. So this is a funky username. Can't change it, sorry, but the title name above it, it reads like Coach Lewis. And I do have a Bitmoji, so it's like a funky looking character or whatever. So it's LUIS once again, period angel, GGUSD. And you can
Is that
find
it,
me
or is
there.
there any other one that you use?
I'm most active there. Very few videos on my YouTube channel. I have two of
Mm.
them. I'll reserve them for now. But Snapchat is like the gateway to like know my personality, how my brain works,
Mm.
and all of the behind the scenes stuff is on there. So it's my favorite platform. It's really fun now that they have GIFs or GIFs, however you want to pronounce it, and like you know, I do quirky things with like the artistic tools that you can do on Snap. So I like
Mm.
it.
Mm. Awesome. Thank you last time, Luis, and everybody who's going to watch this later on. His social media details will be in the description. And thank you very much for listening. Kapai, and talk to you all soon. Thank you, Luis.
Leonardo, thank you so much.
Thank
This
you.
was awesome.
Cheers.